Hello, everyone, and welcome to Low Prep, High Impact, Instant Start, and more. What I'm most excited to talk to you all about today is the reality of teaching. You know, sometimes we spend hours and hours lesson planning, and whether our plans get derailed because we need to support our students in something, or whether we're in the middle of a conversation and something so incredible is happening and we want to make sure that every student is able to participate. We want to document that thinking, whatever it is. That's really what the goal of is Instant Start. So if you don't know about it yet, it's somewhat new, it's in beta, and I'm so excited to tell you a little bit about it today. So for those of you that might not know me, my name is Michelle. I do go by Misha at work. There is a slight name change on there. If you've been following for a little while, I did recently get married. So that's my new last name there. I'm not going to tell you how to say it because my new favorite game is having everyone tell me what they think it sounds like. And then I do have a really fun little way for you to remember how to say it. So if you're with me on social media, go ahead, message me. I would love to hear how you think my new name is pronounced. At Lumio here, I'm a learning and community designer. Before this, I was a kindergarten and first grade teacher in Chicago, and then made my way to sunny Arizona when I left the classroom. During my time here at SMART, I started as a professional development specialist. I worked as an education consultant, and now I'm working behind the scenes on our community, instructional design, all the one-pagers that you see, the quick train videos, all the fun stuff. Speaking of the little quick train videos, on the screen there, you will see a QR code, and that goes specifically to my work Instagram. And the reason I have that there is in these short times that you and I have together, there's only so many things that I can tell you about Lumio, and there's so many little things that I love about it. And so if you give me a follow there on Instagram, what you'll see is just quick little videos on small little things you might not know that exist about Lumio, and I kind of give a couple little ideas of how you can use it in your classroom. All right, looks like we've got people from all over the place here, which is super exciting. So like I said, our agenda for today is I'm going to show you what exactly Instant Start is, how to make sure you have access to it, how to launch it for those quick engaging activities. Then I'm going to show you, in case Instant Start does look interesting to you, but you want to make it a little bit more of yourself, where you can find those templates to make them more of your own, more personalized, and make those interactive. And then we're going to go through, and I want to make sure that everyone knows about our Lumio library, because everything that we have, you can really quickly have access to get all of your learning going. All right, so before we get started, like I said, one of the main goals of Instant Start is really collaboration. I want you to just think about a time in your classroom where you thought maybe you asked a quick question just to gauge where students are, and all of a sudden the conversation has been sparked. Lots of students are contributing, but I really like to think about all of the students you might have in your classroom, whether, they are the ones that are always raising their hand, always eager to participate. They've got that level of comfort. But then you've got on the other end, you've got your students that maybe that's not so natural to them, whether raising their hand just makes them feel a little bit intimidated. Maybe they're feeling shy. Maybe they've got an IEP. Maybe they're learning a new language. Whatever it is, it's super important that when that conversation does get sparked, that we're giving every single one of our students the opportunity to participate, especially because sometimes we just don't have time to call on all of our students, but we want to make sure that we do make sure that every student's voice is heard. So being able to spark something like this really allows that. So why does collaboration matter, and where does the multiple means of expression come into it? So it boosts the engagement. And like I said, it supports all of our learners, our diverse learners. And then it can also deepen the understanding, because we're not just having those quick, hey, you know what? That was great. But now we're able to have everyone's thoughts there, and everyone is contributing something that might be completely different. And so it really encourages that discussion. It allows that perspective taking, and it really allows for every student to be able to participate in it, no matter what their barrier or their comfort level might be. So with that, I'm going to quickly pop out of my Lumio lesson here. I'm going to end my session, and we're going to take a look at Instant Start. So Instant Start, you'll notice right here, I'm in my class sessions because I just ended my lesson. I have an Instant Start button right here, but you'll also notice that when I'm in my library, I've got it right here too. Here's a couple of things that you might need to know. So if you are logged into Lumio and you don't see that button when you're the teacher, right now Instant Start is in beta mode. So I'm really quickly just going to show you where to turn that on. So just log into Lumio as a teacher. I'm in the My Library tab, and in the top right corner, I've got my little icon. Mine is my picture. Yours might just be your initials. And if I click on that, you're going to get this drop-down menu. From here, I've got a button that says About Lumio Beta. Now, mine says About Lumio Beta because I've already had mine on. Yours might say Join Lumio Beta if you've not joined it yet. So if I click on that, even if you're not in it yet, you'll get this exact same pop-up with a toggle that you can turn it on. If you're ever wondering what features are in beta, you can see the list of features right here. And one of those things right now is Instant Start. Our product team does a really great job when there is a new feature. It'll always come into beta first because our product team really thrives on your feedback. They want to know, how is this going? How can it be improved? Is it good to go, available for everyone? So if it's in beta, know that that just means that we're testing it out. We want to make sure that it's good to be available. I have one more really important thing I want everyone to know about Instant Start before I launch it. So take a look on my Instant Start button. I'm going to just click right here and you'll notice that I've got 6 ready-made activities that I can just launch to do with my students. Now, if you click on that button too as a teacher, you might have different activities. You might not see the same as me or as the person sitting right next to you. And I just like to warn you in advance why that is. Right now it's in beta. And so it's being tested. And so we're doing something called A/B testing, which means some of us might get some templates and then other folks might get other templates. And so our product team is taking a look and thinking, what are the most used ones? They're just testing out a few that we have. And then based from there, we'll see when Instant Start does move over to out of beta and available for everyone, which are going to be the templates that we'll have. So I just like to warn you, take a look at the ones I have right now. When you try it out later, you might have different ones. That doesn't mean anything's broken. It just means that you're part of a different testing template at the moment. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so what is Instant Start? Again, I'm in the middle of a lesson and I have this opportunity to get all my students engaged. Okay, so really quick, I see I have one right here for brainstorming. I'm gonna click on it and right away, it's going to jump me into a brand new session and it's gonna give me that pop-up for my students to join. So I'm gonna pop really quick right now. I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna ask for any of you that are logged into the class, if you are able to go ahead and join my Lumio lesson. If you feel like you're able because you've got 2 monitors or you don't mind switching between 2 tabs, go ahead and join me in my lesson. Or if you as a learner, you feel like, hey, you know what? I just want to sit back and I just want to watch that. That's easier for me to navigate. I'm okay with that too. So in just a moment here, I'll have Tisha, who's backstage here for me, who's going to drop our link into the chat if you'd like to join, or you can follow those instructions right on the screen. You can go to lumioclass.com. And then my code is 181461. Looks like I've got 2 students that are joined in. I'm going to give it just one more moment. Oh, I see some familiar names there. Hey guys, good to see you. Thanks for being here. And then in just a moment, we're going to get going. And I'll tell you what my brainstorming prompt is. All right. If you have not joined yet, no worries. You can always join because I've got it live. So it's okay if you're not there quite yet. But just a reminder, think about yourself as a learner. If you're like, hey, it's just easier for me to sit back and observe, I'm A-okay with that. This is being recorded and you'll get that in your email. Okay. So my brainstorming prompt for you guys is, for a lot of us here, it is testing season. Maybe for not everyone in the world, because I know we've got people joining from everywhere. I see someone here from Argentina. But think about, if you're not in testing season yet, imagine that you are. How do you like to get your students ready for testing season? Let's brainstorm some ideas of how you like to get your students ready for testing season. So maybe I'm, leading a professional development with my staff, and we're a room full of educators, which means we've got lots of ideas. We each bring our own experience to the table. And I want to make sure that we have this bank of resources available for anyone to come back to. So instead of having that verbal discussion, which we still can have, but I also want it to be documented. I want to make sure everyone is able to participate. I'm going to go ahead and start this instant start where I've got this brainstorming shouted out, ready to go, and I've already got those ideas coming in. So my question was, how do you get your students ready for testing season? So I'm going to click on these here. Looks like some sample test questions. All year, talk about how to take a test so it's not a shock. That would be so helpful to me too, Trisha, because I think that in so many classrooms, maybe they don't take a traditional test. Maybe formative assessments look different throughout the year. And then when it's time for those cumulative exams, that's something that's super intimidating. So talking about how to take a test, giving them those tips, I really like that. Review games or activities. I do like review games. It gives that low stakes practice and then gives us data as the teacher to see where our students are at. Practice tests. Use the Firefly assessment used in Pennsylvania a few times throughout the year. Yep. So making sure they get that practice. A test quiz. Utilize any pre-test materials from district or test provider. Practice typing. Oh my goodness, Lisa, I'm so glad you said this. I actually, this is kind of relevant, kind of irrelevant to this, kind of a side tangent, but I feel like I have to share it. I was in a school building in Canada a few months ago. Actually, I should probably say it was more like a year ago. And I was getting ready to do a training on Lumio, actually. And I overheard a conversation happening with two teachers. And one was saying to the other, you know, I feel like the students use so much tech already. Why do you feel like, you know, using things like Lumio or other websites for your students during class is helpful, especially as it pertains to like reading? I think they were maybe two ELA teachers. And I thought that what the other teacher had said was interesting because I don't fully disagree with what the other teacher was saying. We do use a lot of tech. So like, what's that good balance? And that other teacher had said, you know what? I think that, you know, our students are not so used to reading on a computer, reading on a piece of paper, reading on a computer. That proficiency and that speed might look different for them. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, hey, you know what? That's really true because I'm a big reader and I love reading a physical book. Like I'm a sucker to hold a real book, feel the pages turning, see how far I am in the book. But because I was traveling at the time so much for work, I became a much bigger Kindle person. And I realized that I was reading so much faster now on a Kindle than in a real physical book. But her students were having the opposite experience. So practicing typing, practicing the digital experience based on how that test is delivered. I love that thought, Lisa. Sorry, that was such a side tangent I went on. Practice using the online tools training. So many good ideas. So why did I use this as an instant start? Again, let's imagine really quick that all of us together right now are in an in-person team meeting. And, you know, principals come in and they've got a laundry list of things that have to be covered. But each of you just now submitted completely different responses. And now if let's say I'm a new teacher, I have all of these different ideas that I can come back to because we documented them. And maybe let's just say I had Tisha who's backstage with me. Maybe Tisha didn't feel comfortable raising her hand, but I know that maybe Tisha had a burning idea that could potentially be really helpful to me. I now have it documented. Tisha was able to go ahead and speak if maybe the other teachers in the room are, you know, much more willing to raise their hand and speak up, for example. So just a really good entry point for all of my participants here. Thank you for participating in that. I'm going to go ahead and end my session. And it's going to ask me really quick how I felt about it. Because like I said, this is a feature right now that's in beta. So our product team is really looking to you guys for the feedback. So this one is asking, how was my experience with it? It's asking if it saved time. I discovered things that Lumio can do. So maybe you'd never used Shout It Out before. Maybe that quickly exposed me to it. Capitalize on teaching moments when teaching on the fly. It did engage my students, so I could respond to that there. Let's try one more. I'm going to go to Instant Start. And again, here, this is another Shout It Out that's categorized a KWL chart. There is a mind map. This one's got like infinitely cloned objects that students can drag on and participate in. I can just bring out a simple whiteboard. Again, my templates might be different than yours because it's A/B testing, but I'm going to quickly grab the poll because I really, really like to hear what my students have to say because this can now spark a brand new conversation. So I have a question for you guys. I'm going to start a poll. And since we're talking a lot about collaboration right now, I think a lot of us really lean towards maybe doing group work, but we all know that group work can be super chaotic. So my question to you, is group work worth the chaos? Is group work worth the chaos? So again, it's going to give me that pop-up in case you've not joined my lesson. If you'd like to, you can. It's also in the chat for you. I'm going to go ahead and click start. And this one is coming in as a response. So that's one of our quiz functions there, but there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down. And the question I gave you all is group work worth the chaos? Is group work worth the chaos? Tisha in the chat says, Team Chaos here. I'm with you. We like that productive noise, right? But it's also all about how we set up that group work too. So as y'all are answering my question here, I can see that I've got 83% of you that are logged into my lesson right now are done. And what I can do, and I can wait to release those live results if I need all my students to participate before they also are like, hey, why did you answer that way? But I'm ready. I'm going to go ahead and show those live results. And it looks like the 5 of you that answered, you are thumbs up. That group work is worth the chaos. Okay. So Instant Start, what you'll notice is they're pre-made templates. I didn't do any customizing, but they were really quick, kind of like grab and grow a la carte activities. So maybe I have some students that would have benefited if I had the question typed out. So these are grab and go, which means that you can't really customize them on the fly, but that's the point. These are on the fly. So if I wanted to, hey, I got exposed to this activity, I'm wondering where I even found this, and now I'd like to make it my own. Where do I do that? So here's what we're going to talk about the next couple minutes is I showed you a couple things. Where can I actually just grab these templates in advance to be able to make them my own? So I'm going to go ahead and come out of my session. And if you are someone that's logged in as a student right now, just come back over to our call. I'm just going to be doing a little bit of showing from here. Leah just asked such a good question in the chat. Are those results always anonymous? Can the teacher see the names of the students? That is such a great question. So on the screen like that, those were anonymous, but that did start for me a brand new class session. You'll see here, there was that poll we just did. I can go into review mode. I can go to review results. And what can happen here is you'll notice it looks the same for me at this point. It looks anonymous, but I have a button right here to export results. So if you ever do a quiz in class, which I'll show you right now that this is part of our quiz function, you can export and it will generate an Excel sheet for you with all of your student names and their responses. And if this was a graded question, for example, it'll tell you how they did as well. Hope that answers your question. I'm so glad you asked it. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go to my library. You are very welcome. I'm going to go over to my library, and instead of clicking Instant Start, again, those are grab and go. You're not customizing. Those are just on the fly pieces of work that you can get right into interactive spaces. I'm going to click on New instead. The first activity we did where it was the brainstorming activity, and I asked you guys, how are you getting ready for testing season? That was actually our Shout It Out feature. So if I click right here onto Shout It Out, instead, what I could do is actually have that question ready to go in advance. Again, now I'm not on the fly. Now I'm actually planning. So how do you get your students ready for testing season? Now from here, I've got a couple different options that I can do. If I had multiple questions, I can do categories, which would allow me to have separate parts, kind of like that KWL template that you might have seen on my screen. I can select the mode, which means independent work or live in class. So if I was creating something like this, where they might be doing it independently, they wouldn't have to wait for me to click start activity, or if it was live in class, I could do so. I can then decide if I want my students to contribute via text or images. Maybe I only want each student to submit one idea, or maybe I happen to know that everyone's going to have lots of thoughts, so they can make up to, however many submissions I need them to. And then also thinking about those students. Earlier, I was saying that sometimes you have students that maybe are not so comfortable sharing, but we know that they have a contribution. Something else you can do that I think is really neat is you can also hide the student names. And so then you'll just be little icons. And as a teacher, when you go into review mode, you can see who made each contribution, but on the big screen, you can show those or hide the names if it does make those students a little bit more inclined to participate. I'll click next, and it always defaults to that simple gray screen, but you can also bring in a custom picture to make it more fun and interesting, and then you'll click finish. So you'll now notice as it's done loading that that activity will generate a lesson for me that I can then build into or continue going from here. I can title it and I can say, this is brainstorming on testing, and I can build into that file further. I'm going to show you one more thing here. I'm going to go to my plus sign, and I have that same menu as I did when I was on my Lumio home screen on what I can do to create a lesson. That second activity that we did where I had that thumbs up, thumbs down, that was part of response, that poll. Response is one of our quiz functions. And what I can do is go right here. And you'll notice that you do have the availability to do it through AI. So you can generate a quiz here, but I'm just going to go to add or edit to do my own. And then here was that option that we had. It was poll or opinion. So if you liked that activity and you wanted to go ahead and customize it in advance, that's just right here. And my question to you guys was, is group work worth the chaos? And simply I could say yes or no, or that one had like a thumbs up, thumbs down. So I could have uploaded a little icon or a little picture for there as well. And I can make it a multi-question quiz as well if I needed to. So that's it. That is how you can customize in advance. All right, a couple other things that I do want to show you just so you can grab in advance for easy building of a Lumio lesson. You don't have to build everything from scratch. In Lumio, you do have lots of different templates and pre-made lessons that you can also customize and build on your own. So just to kind of go over for a couple minutes here, and we're almost done, folks. Today's a quick one. I'm going to click back into this plus button, and you'll notice that there are so many different tiles you can click on. My favorite is always the game-based activities. I feel like that's what a lot of us are drawn to. Someone had said to get ready for testing season, maybe you do games for low-stakes practice. These are all pre-made templates. So if I just quickly click on Super Sort, you'll notice I don't have to build the game. I just have to put in my content. So I could do verb and noun, and I can say run, walk, and talk. And then for noun, I can say desk, pen, and house. And then from here, it's already making the game for me. Now I get to pick a background. Okay. Quickly going through here. I know I'm moving quickly, but remember this is being recorded. I just want to show you a couple things that you can customize that are very, very quick. You also have graphic organizers and manipulatives that are pre-made, but you can still customize. So you'll notice that you've got some brain dump. You've got some that are really fun, designed in Canva, brought over to Lumio. Then you've got something simple, even just like a brainstorming web like we did. So let's just say this is a pre-made graphic organizer. You can still customize it. Very simple. If you wanted to, you could add text. So how do you get your students ready for testing season? You can spend some time making it really nice and pretty. So maybe I'll go ahead and smush that in. I'll make it centered there. And then I'm going to click here, make it a little larger. Something that I always like to do is click that down arrow and I'll click lock in place. Then my students can't move it around. And then in order to make that ready to go, what you'll do is you've got a magic wand in the top right corner. And then you have 3 different options on how to make that into an interactive activity. The individual handout will give each student or participant their own copy, and you'll have a dashboard to access all of their individual work. Group workspace, we love the chaos. It's kind of a combination of a whole class whiteboard and an individual handout because it'll auto-generate small groups for you, but you're still able to manipulate those names. And it'll give each of those groups their own workspace to participate in. Or whole class whiteboard gives all the students access, which is really fun because you'll have multiple means of expression. What do I mean by that? I'm actually going to show you. I'm going to go ahead and click whole class whiteboard. And then I'm going to finish editing and I'm going to go ahead to start new with that lesson that I just created. So let's give it a second here to load up and generate that new session for me. And I'm going to go to that second page. So now that it's a whole class whiteboard, if you were students connected to my lesson, earlier I was mentioning why is collaboration important and why are multiple means of expression important. We have students that, are really good verbally, or maybe they really want to participate via typing, or maybe typing is hard and they do want to record themselves. Via being able to do this a whole class whiteboard, you have students that can come on here and they can write. They can click into the gallery. They can bring in a sticker and they can react to something that someone said. Back in the gallery, they can click on the microphone and they can submit their response via talking this way if typing is really hard for them. So there's so many different ways for students to engage in an activity. I'm going to pause really quick because there's something that might not be so obvious that you don't know that's very instant start like that lives right here while you're already in delivery mode. So I'm in delivery mode right now. Again, maybe I had this pre-made lesson, we're flowing, and all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I need to add something in. You'll notice that right here, you have that same little plus button in the bottom left corner. And then there's just 4 little quick things that you can grab. You can go ahead to a new whiteboard page. You can auto-generate a whole class whiteboard, which means it's going to just give you a blank page that's already going to be set as a whole class whiteboard. You can automatically start a shouted out activity, which is that first one that we did where I asked you how you were all getting ready for testing season, where all of you came up as little bubbles. Or you can go ahead and start a blank graphing activity as well. So just to quick show you, I can do a quick shout it out. It'll auto-generate immediately, and I can verbally ask my students that question if they're connected. Very, very low lift. I did in prep, but in the moment as a teacher, I realized, hey, here's a moment where I can have my students participate with me in a different way. I don't see any questions in the chat. Again, I know I'm moving quickly. Reminder that this is being recorded. It'll be on our YouTube channel and will also be sent to you. I'm going to show you just one more thing, and then I'm going to get you guys on your way. So the main focus of today was instant start, getting those activities right away, right on the fly, if your students are ready to be engaged in an activity. But taking a little back seat, taking a step back here, I want to do some more planning, but I'm just not sure where to start with Lumio. I want to make sure that everyone also takes a moment to explore the Lumio library. So the top of my screen here, you'll notice the 3rd tab right here says Lumio library. I know all of us at some point have scrolled through Teachers Pay Teachers, which is great. This is kind of like Teachers Pay Teachers, but it's totally free and totally customizable, which I think is such a powerful thing because sometimes you'll find something that is really neat, but you get it as a PDF and you can't really make it your own. So let's just say I'm scrolling through here, and I do always encourage, go ahead and go through the categories first before you start searching. The categories are really great and have lots of different ideas. So we've been talking about testing season. So here's some learning and study skills. So maybe I want to look through this category here. Here's like a study plan template, build a study plan template, create your own study materials. So there's all these different features here, different lessons that are pre-made. Evaluating sources, there's a main idea, graphic organizer. But let's just say, like, I'm looking at this, let's just say to-do list. That looks interesting, but I'm having a vision of another way that I can use it. So when you find something in Lumio library, 2 things you need to know is you actually can preview the entire document here, and anything that's interactive, you are able to move around, which is kind of cool. So you can see completely what the file is meant to be like. And then if you like it, you can go ahead to save to your library. I said there's 2 things you need to know. There's 3. Number 2 is that you don't have to sit here and wait for that to be done saving. You can, kind of keep going, doing what you need to do. And then once it's ready, it'll say edit file, or you can just go ahead and launch it. But what's really important, this is the 3rd thing, is if you go to edit file, what's really neat is you're not stuck with this the way that it is. You can actually go ahead and start customizing it. So maybe I didn't want that. Maybe I wanted that to say something different. So I can go ahead and change this. So whenever you find something in the Lumio library, I want you to know that it is editable and you don't have to keep it as is. Maybe I have some students that benefit from some audio instructions. So I'll go ahead and add that little feature there, record and remind them what they need to know. And then that'll live for them in that corner. So I think that's really neat. You can still customize anything you find in our ready-made resources. Okay. I think I've unloaded lots of ideas on all of us today. So I'm going to leave you guys with some resources to walk away with here. So I'm going to quickly jump back to my class sessions, go back to our call from earlier, to our file, and we're going to go over some ideas. Y'all, my favorite time of the year is coming. If you've never heard of Lumio Palooza, this is something you're going to want to know about. So every July, we do a 2-day virtual PD event. And what's really special about it is it's led by educators all over the world. So this year, I think we've got around 70 sessions. I might be giving you a little secret sneak peek here. 70 sessions from all different educators all over the world in different languages on totally different topics. It's July 14th and 15th. It's virtual. And when I say it's starting at like 2 a.m. Eastern, because we've got folks from literally so many different countries, Poland, Italy, India. Like we've got folks from everywhere. We've even got someone in Australia. We've got lots in the US, some in Canada. So go ahead and scan this QR code if you'd like to register. And just a reminder, for Lumio Palooza or any webinar we ever do, if you can't attend, always register anyways, because what that does is it gets you an email with the recording a few days after the session actually happens. But hopefully by next week, we'll be posting the schedule, so you'll be able to see what all those amazing sessions are going to be. Guys, you don't want to miss it. I really cannot believe what an incredible Lumio Palooza is in the works for this summer, for this year, because I know it's not summer for everyone. All right. Last but not least, leaving you guys with some resources here. As always, I'm going to start on the right. We do have an incredible academy where you can take self-paced coursework to earn your certificates, your credit hours, and deep dive into lots of different features. We have just a few webinars left for this school year. Again, Lumio Palooza this summer, and then at some point over the summer, we'll start planning those webinars for the fall. If you are one of our ambassadors and you'd like to lead a webinar as well, go ahead and let us know. Facebook group, you can always email us. We'd love to have guests join us for those webinars. Recordings are always there on our YouTube page of any past webinars. And also our YouTube has a collection of quick train videos, just like 2-minute clips of how do I do this? How do I do that? And then that leads me to our amazing ambassador platform. We have made so many really exciting changes to the ambassador platform. Tisha, who's backstage, has been leading an incredible group of educators all over the world, supporting each other, sharing ideas, connecting about different ways to use Lumio. So if you are not part of our ambassador community yet, you've got lots of really great ways to connect with folks all over the world using Lumio. We've got ambassador virtual meetups that happen where you get to support each other and really spark those ideas together. And last but not least, thank you all so much for being here today. I hope that after today, you feel a little bit more comfortable using Instant Start. Make sure that you leave our product team some feedback on how you feel about Instant Start so they know if there's any improvements that they feel need to be made. And if you'd like to earn your certificate for attending today's webinar, go ahead and submit that survey. And once you submit the survey, you'll get the certificate at the end of the form. So with that, thank you all so much for being here. It is on the screen. It's also in the chat there for you. And then as well, Tisha just dropped a link to join our Facebook group. That is another great place to go if you've got a quick question. When changes are happening in Lumio, I'm always posting those changes there. And then every Tuesday, I post a little tip for something you might want to know about Lumio. But with that, thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you at the next one.